Going out on test tape for hotcam. This is dvw-970p, serial number 42024. I'm testing the camera with a HJ22 lens, although it's just the body functions that I need to test really. I shall test the lens functions as well to see how they work with the camera. Zoom by servo, changing speed. Wings on the bottom. Back to servo. Manual focus. Iris fully open, fully closed, auto switch, fully open, fully closed, auto burn, double up, macro. Lens test. Right, I'm going to do the MD wheel, that's 1. 2, that's 3, and that's 4, that's back to 1, the colour wheel, B, that's C, that's D, that's A, back to B, shutter speed, that's turned on at 1/60, 1/125, 1/250, 1/500, 1/1000, 50 Hz, 1/60, turning off. Moving on to gains, it's low -3, medium 0, high 3, leaving on medium 0. Check turbo gain, it's on at 18, back off. White balance, Bravo, Alpha, preset all at 3200. Going to execute white balance. Change shown now at 5800 degrees Kelvin. Move on to audio, currently in channel 1 in auto. Switching to manual wheel, I'm going to go up to 10, down to 0 and back to 5 on the manual wheel. Test, 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 that's 10. Going down, test, 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 and that's back to 5. Going down to 0 and then we'll switch to auto. Test, 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 test. Channel 1 back in auto. Leaving channel 1 in auto, I'll now switch to channel 2. Sound will cut. And channel 2 in auto. Switching to manual wheel. Up to 10, down to 0 and back to 5. Test, 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 that's 10. Back down, test, 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 test. That's back to 5. We're now going to go down to 0 and switch to auto. Test, 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 test. That's channel 2 back in auto. That's the rear channels tested. I'm now going to flip both channels to front. That's both front channels on auto. I'm going to unplug the rear channels and the monitor so I can go movement test. Tilt, pan, barrel roll, same again, barrel fully open. Tilt, pan, barrel roll. Auto iris, time and date. Just going to note that I've also tested the D-tap out, the power, the SDI test out on the time codes, and they're all fine. That's the end of the test.